Today we're going to be talking about late adulthood, and it's a pertinent area to discuss because the older adult population is one of the fastest increasing populations. Right now, 1 in 6 Americans are 65 or older, but by 2030, it's projected that 1 in 5 Americans will be 65 and older. Also, the oldest old, the population 85 plus, are expected to make up 5% of the population by 2060. Aging varies from person to person, especially when it comes to biological aging. Lifestyle matters. Senescence describes this process of biological aging. You can see here the man who's a marathon runner is likely going to be biologically younger than his peer who's not active, as his organs and organ systems will age differently. Several theorists developed aging theories in the mid-20th century. Some of these are programmed aging theories that posit that our cells can only divide so many times, and once they can't divide, they die and we age. Random error theories posit aging is also inevitable, but our aging body is the result of outside influences, like how much we use our body and mutations in DNA. Currently, therapists adopt, as we see on the next slide, the successful aging models, which emphasizes adaptation and emotional well-being. These are important because they're not self-defeating. We don't accept a lack of function as a normal part of aging. We look for the avoidance of disease, maintenance of cognitive ability, and active engagement in life. There are changes in the brain and nervous system as we age. We lose part of our neuronal elements, our neurons, and we have lower blood flow, which can decrease our verbal fluency, make it more difficult to perform executive functions, and it makes us take longer to recover from stress. We lose Purkinje fibers in our cerebellum that impacts our balance. We lose gray matter in our frontal and parietal lobes especially, and there's a decrease in cortical white matter and myelin, which slows the progression of nerve transmission. Cognitive changes are not universal. Our global mental functions are pretty stable, like our personality over life. Our specific mental functions do change, like our attention. We're more vulnerable to distraction, and post-error slowing occurs, which means once we get off task, it's harder for us to get back on task. Because of the lack of myelin or the loss of myelin, processing speed slows, making it harder for us to manipulate and retain information, especially after age 60. Memory doesn't universally decrease, but specific areas do, like our episodic, source, and flashbulb memory. Two age-related issues are age-associated memory impairment, which is mild but can impact daily function. Then benign senescent forgetfulness is more sporadic and mostly impacted by distractibility.
Psychomotor functions include slowed initiation and production of speech, slowed motor reaction time resulting in balance challenges, and difficulties with bimanual tasks, tasks requiring coordinated movement of both hands, such as folding laundry. Sensory functions. Driving safety in late adulthood is influenced by declines in dynamic visual acuity, which is the ability to accurately identify a moving target, useful field of vision, or UFOV, the visual field over which information can be extracted at a brief glance without eye or head movements. This decreases with age. Both UFOV and overall driving safety can be improved with computer-based simulation and cognitive training programs. Color vision suffers with age and becomes less bright, and the contrast between colors less noticeable, and there's also a loss of peripheral vision. The sensory function of hearing. 23% of people over age 65 experience gradual hearing loss, dramatic enough to pose challenges to social participation and driving. Patterns of hearing loss and their effect on social participation differ based on factors including degree and pattern of the hearing loss across frequencies and the ability to recognize speech sounds and whether one or both ears is affected. Hearing aid technology has improved to better mimic natural hearing instead of amplifying all sounds uniformly. Balance. Balance problems affect a third of those over age 65. The main system of the body that regulates the ability to remain steady is the vestibular system, which calibrates sensory input from the eyes, muscles, and joints and vestibular organs of the inner ear. The vestibular system becomes impaired with age in a condition known as prebiastasis. This results in an experience of unsteadiness and the development of a fear of falling. Interventions include education and consideration of environmental safety. The sensory functions of taste, smell, and somesthesia. Hyposmia is a decreased sensitivity to smell that occurs in the olfactory system, and hypogeusia is a decreased sensitivity to taste that occurs in the gustatory system. Taste and smell become less acute with age, and saliva flow decreases, which can affect IADL functions of cooking and home maintenance. Interventions include enhancement of the aesthetic and social elements of meal times. The body's ability to perceive information from all sensory systems results in somesthesia. Sensitivity to touch, vibration, temperature, kinesthesia, proprioception, and pain are all affected. Physical functions, the musculoskeletal system. Osteoporosis or loss of bone tissue resulting in fragility of the skeletal system. Physical inactivity, particularly decreased weight-bearing activity, contributes to bone loss. And physical activity increases remineralization of bone tissue. Physical functions, range of motion. The spine suffers up to 50% less extensor flexibility by age 85. Kyphosis results from a displacement of the center of body mass to the rear, coupled with a forward head position and increased lordosis. This exacerbates impaired balance, causing slower walking and difficulty with stair climbing, as well as decreased performance in ADLs like grooming and dressing. Musculoskeletal changes include not so much a change in the size and number of slow twitch or type 1 muscle fibers, but there is a change in type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers. They undergo selective atrophy, resulting in diminished muscle mass. And declines in muscle strength affect postural alignment, resulting in balance and gait impairments. Exercise is a great intervention to combat the musculoskeletal changes that come with aging. Strength training provides or protects the maintenance of muscle power, while endurance training improves stamina.
The cardiovascular changes that occur at this stage of development include the SA node beginning to lose their cells that causes a slowed heart rate. The heart size increases, although the heart walls begin to thicken, which causes a restricted amount of blood that can be held in the chamber. These changes to the cardiovascular system's structure can cause an otherwise healthy person in the late adulthood developmental stage to appear slightly abnormal through an EKG than they would at a previous stage of life. The disease atherosclerosis will decompose plaques of fatty material in the blood vessels. The buildup of the plaques cause more frequent blockage in the arteries, increasing the likelihood of disease. The baroreceptors become less sensitive as the individual ages and neglect their function to measure the pressure of the blood vessels to initiate maintenance when an individual changes positions. Orthostatic hypotension is another condition to which the blood pressure declines when an individual transfers from lying to standing. The changes in the integumentary system are the epidermis. It will thin and flatten. The dermis will decrease vascularity. There is a decrease in collagen, which causes increased bruising. There is an increase of H spots during the sun exposure. There is a decrease in number of sweat and oil glands, and there is less moisture overall in the skin. The following tables discuss the physiological attributes that impact the age group and the effects that the exercise has on the body. Looking at the cardiovascular and pulmonary systems, exercise can decrease onset of changes to the systems and improve proficiency. Looking at the musculoskeletal system, exercise can increase mobility and bone density. In the neuromuscular system, exercise increases strength and endurance as well as preserves functional reaction time. Lastly, metabolically, exercise decreases accumulation of fat deposits, increases muscle mass, decreases fall risk, and improves glucose tolerance.
Older adulthood is a time of occupational transition. Workplace demands are decreasing or ending, while IADLs and ADLs are starting to take more time. One of the reasons are balance concerns, driving difficulties. However, ADLs can be accomplished well into the 80s and beyond, especially with adaptive equipment such as the grab bar seen here and environmental modifications, which include changes to the home. A newer, more important ADL is medication management. It becomes especially important to monitor medication toxicity because our bodies hold less water as we age. We become more dehydrated. So we need to make sure that we're taking just the right amount of medicines and that they're not interfering with one another. Housing continues to be a concern as most older adults want to stay in their house, and indeed they do, especially thanks to universal design principles. When adults are ready to transfer to a different living situation, they have the option of continuing care retirement communities and other retirement communities. The problem is that these can be cost prohibitive. A trend now is the elder cottage housing opportunity, which actually brings prefabricated homes into the lots of family members so that older adults can live near family while having some measure of independence. Relationships change as we age. Older adults ideally are keepers of meaning. They're sharing what they know, traditions and culture with younger generations and the community. Relationships with spouses change as we become caregivers and then widows and widowers. Grandparenting can be really satisfying, but it can have a negative impact when the grandparent, especially grandmother, is the sole provider of care. Friendships change as our social networks shrink, but divorcees and singles tend to maintain the friendships they already had from middle adulthood.
The health risks include heart disease. Heart disease is the #1 leading cause of death in the United States. This can derive from any cardiovascular condition that is left untreated. The risk factors that lead to heart disease typically begin in middle adulthood. The risk factors include poor cardiovascular fitness, hypertension, atherosclerosis, and high cholesterol levels. Coronary heart disease is one of the most prevalent cardiovascular conditions. Adults with cardiovascular disease typically have greater difficulty participating in their ADLs. Additional chronic health conditions in this developmental stage are hypertension, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, carcinoma, depressive mood disorder. Depressive mood disorders are confused for typical aging in the elderly, with the common symptoms being fatigue, lower energy, difficulty concentrating, difficulty with decision-making and memory. Cancer is another disease that is experienced by this population. Prostate cancer, breast and lung cancer are also common. Major life areas at this stage of development are the work, retirement, transition. Additionally, continuing education at this stage transitions from career advancement to subjects that are of interest, as well as recreation and leisure also taking a lead. Around the age 61 to 62, typically individuals begin considering or retiring. Individuals that are living in higher socioeconomic status tend to retire earlier than those of lower. It is thought that many people enter unretirement due to financial reasons and unexpected costs. In some cases, this is true. A study conducted in 2010 investigated the number of individuals that returned to work after retiring and found it was due to a lack of fulfillment during the duration of their career. Some phases of retirement are phased retirement, and that is the idea offered by some employers that allows the population to phase out of work over a 5 to 15-year span to keep the benefits with less demand. Bridge employment refers to any work that is paid after retirement or when after a person begins to receive their pension. Career bridge employment refers to an individual who seeks a job that is less demanding in the same field. Non-career employment is employment outside of the field of their career. Recareering is the changing of careers, and the liberation stage of retirement is the first year when the individual experiences the benefits of concluding their regular work.
Community life in late adulthood, volunteering. Driving may present challenges to participation in volunteering after age 70. Senior Corps is a U.S. organization that pairs seniors with community members who may benefit from their skills. Informal skill sharing amongst neighbors and friends in the community is also common in late adulthood. For example, a senior who feels comfortable driving may provide rides to a polling place on election day or participate in Meals on Wheels. Finally, providing childcare to grandchildren is common in late adulthood. Leisure competence is an understanding of what leisure activities are meaningful to you, and this competence often builds on pre-retirement experiences. Religion and spirituality. Participation in religious activities is highest in late adulthood, and it's emphasized in the role of keepers of meaning. 72% of Americans age 65 and older say religion is very important in their lives and is a protective factor on perception of physical and psychological well-being. Political life and citizenship. AARP, American Association of Retired Persons, has great political influence through political action committees or PACs and lobbying. Those in late adulthood are extremely politically active and have a large influence on American politics due to their wealth and high participation in voting. 72% of older adults in the US vote, which is the highest percentage of any age group. Gray power is a term from the 1980s that describes the political power of this organization, of this population.
Thanks for listening.